Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Ask Zach. Today we have the privilege of having Daniel Rush. He's the head cross country and track coach at the Masters University. And I had the privilege of living with Daniel. I was Daniel's best man in his wedding. You're welcome for that wonderful speech that I gave.
Appreciate it.
And I would like to talk to you guys about something that has absolutely changed my mentality when it comes to doing simple tasks for the Lord. And that one thing is a phrase that our team started to use a lot my freshman year, which is competing for an audience of one. So Daniel, I want you to talk a little bit, just overview. What does that mean to compete for an audience of one? And then how can these youth students implement that in their everyday life?
Yeah, it's such an important topic, and that's a great question. And I would say that competing for an audience of one in some ways is very simple, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's easy. And it's simply just because we're prideful and we want eyes on us. And I think the first step to competing for an audience of one is just realizing that life's not about you. You're not the main character of the story who deserves to win the championship because you've put in so much hard work behind the scenes. That's just not how it works. We serve a holy God, and we actually deserve judgment. We don't deserve the win. We don't deserve the victory. We deserve punishment. And we serve a holy God who offers us salvation from that judgment and from that punishment. So competing for an audience of one is really this. It's seeking first the kingdom of God in all things while working as hard as you possibly know how at your sport. If you do those two things, you're making yourself usable. And we can do is make ourselves usable by God, and then God decides how we're used. So if you seek Christ with all of your might and work as hard as you can at your sport or your endeavor or whatever it is, that's it. You're usable. And then God will then decide, do you win the championship or do you have a career laden with injury or somewhere in between? And He will be magnified through you if you're usable. You just cannot know what that looks like. You will not know what that looks like ahead of time. So competing for an audience of one is being able to accept that and let go of you being the one it's about and saying, okay, I want Christ to be magnified through me. That can look like whatever the Lord wills. I'm just going to do my responsibility of making myself usable.
That's so helpful because what it does is it changes your focus. Mm-hmm. Success then no longer is, did you win? Mm-hmm. It's not, did you get a PR? It's not, did you get an A on that test? It's faithfulness. When you're competing for an audience of one, you put the blockers up like a horse has, right?
That's right.
And you focus on one thing, which is worshiping the Lord. Yeah. So Daniel, thanks for that encouragement. Yeah. What about a practical example of sometimes it's hard to do that. Anxiety will kick in. You'll start to worry about your own results. Yeah. What will you say is a practical tip for these students to put into practice?
Yeah, and I think it's important to know that being a little bit nervous before competition is not wrong. There's nothing wrong with that. In fact, being nervous shows that you care, shows that you're invested, which is good. I would even say is essential for a high-performing athlete. There's nothing wrong with being a little nervous. When it becomes wrong is when it turns into anxiety, and that's when you're thinking more of yourself than you're thinking of Christ. What I tell the athletes is think least of yourself, think more of your teammates, and think the most of Christ. And so if you're looking for a practical tip, anything you can do to prepare your mind to be put on Christ, whether that's just making sure you don't take yourself too seriously, whether that's memorizing a verse that you can rehearse to yourself through a warm-up or even during a competition, or even something that can be incredibly practical is going to be encouraging those around you, verbally giving someone else, hey, look to Christ, remember this thing, give them a verse, because that kind of forces you to recall what is truth and what you're really there for. So it can look different for anyone, but you must be prepared. And so I would just say, whatever you can do to get your mind off of yourself, onto your teammates more, and onto Christ most.
Absolutely. Every test you take, every race you run, every exam, everything, you're competing for one audience, and that's the Lord. Daniel, thanks for that encouragement.
Yeah, my pleasure.